Jim Montgomery has thrown the lines into a blender once again, and this time on ultra settings. Is this a sign of desperation, or will we see results from this change tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes? So buckle up, Bruins fans. I'm here to give you the latest info on your beloved Boston Bruins. If you've been liking my Bruins content, please leave me a like and subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you, and let's get into it. When I saw the line combos for tonight, I thought at first my eyes were deceiving me. Montgomery has put the lines into a blender so much this year, I feel like the players don't know if they're coming or going. Here is the line combos for tonight's game against Carolina. The first line is John Beecher on the left with Pavel Zacha down the middle with David Pastrnak on the right. Now I understand rewarding Beecher for his play, but you barely played him against Philly, and now you expect him to play top line minutes against Carolina's toughest checking line? I'm against splitting up the fourth line in any way, shape, or form. I think keeping them together is what is best for them. But I'm not the coach. They play very well together, and they're the only thing that's been consistent on this Bruins team. Montgomery mentioned he did it with the hope that the way they play rubs off on their new line mates, and spoke to them to say, don't change the way you play. Sure, Zacha being moved to center with Pastrnak could work. It's worked in the past, and I hope it does now. But they spent a lot of money on Elias Lindholm, and for some reason, the chemistry just hasn't been there with him and Pastrnak. Scott McLaughlin from We pointed out that in 96 minutes that Pastrnak and Lindholm have been on the ice together, 5-on-5, the Bruins have broken even on goals, 2-2, but have been doubled up in high danger chances, 24-12, and have an expected goal share of 44.3%. After recording 5 points in their first 3 games of the season, Lindholm has now gone 7 games without a point. Pastrnak has 2 even strength points in those 7 games. This doesn't scream to me that this isn't working, but because everything on this Bruins team isn't working. Here's what Montgomery said about the whole shakeup.
Nothing set in stone, but why do you think that the Lindholm-Pastrnak combination hasn't worked so far?
I don't know. It should work. 2 smart hockey players, 2 players that see the ice really well, 2 players that can shoot and pass, 2 players that can skate. It just hasn't materialized, so we're changing it up.
Going with that is just a matter of familiarity.
Yeah, and our fourth line has been our best line, if you want to call it a fourth line. And the message to those 3, and that was the most important message, was you guys are being split up to help the other guys be better, not for you to become quote-unquote skill players. I don't want their games to change. I want them to play north. I want their work habits to rub off on other people so we create more turnovers, create more opportunities.
Guys play like those 3, do you think their games will fall into gear?
Yes.
Straight line.
Not just straight line, but when you have time, that fourth line has made plays in front of the defenseman, right? Because they keep playing in behind, their speed, they're relentless. People back off because of their speed. Now they got room and time and space to make plays in front of them. And that's the way you play hockey. That's the right way to play.
You mentioned last night not getting high danger chances could be guys aren't willing to go to those areas or game plan. Are there things game plan wise that you want to change or think you need to change?
Not that I can think of. We look back at the game plan. I don't remember saying game plan, but I'm sure I did. And it's more executing the game plan. Guys 2 on the inside. There's 1-3-1 in the O zone. Hanging on the pucks when you don't have a play. Wearing out the back of the net when you don't have a play. Being patient. Those things are things. And those are things that we worked on today offensively.
You're always going to have guys that fail to execute a play here or there. But when it's a consistent cluster of players that fumble passes or whatever, what does that signal to you as a big group of players?
Guys aren't comfortable right now with feeling the puck. The old adage, they're squeezing it tight, and it's mental. I was surprised by last night that we were tight, that we weren't executing, because we had a good game. We had a lot of offense against Toronto. We came out with a real good win. And I thought we had a lot of ozone time in the first 2 periods, but we're not executing offensive opportunities that are there. Our checking, I thought, was pretty good last night for the most part. We had Most of their offense came off of puck decisions when we had it on our tape, whether it's in the D zone, neutral zone, or offensive zone. And those are the things that guys are not playing on instinct, they're thinking. Any sport, if you're thinking instead of just being in the moment, you're not going to play fast. It's obvious where the puck is going. That's why a lot of our pucks are getting picked off.
The field 5-on-3 early, how much does that contribute to having those execution problems later on in the game?
I think it really hampers the 5 guys on the ice. Because mentally it's a blown opportunity, and you saw it. I thought it carried over into a lot of puck decisions by those guys later on. It just does. It's a long time to have a 5-on-3, and I can't say I saw 3 consecutive passes on the 5-on-3. Like clear tape to tape.
Lindholm is now on the second line with Marchand and Kastelic. Everyone keeps telling me that Lindholm plays a lot like Bergeron. And at times, I do see it, but Lindholm is no Bergeron. They do play similar styles sometimes, and maybe, just maybe, he can develop chemistry with Marchand. I have zero issue if Lindholm is our second line center and Zach is our first line center, as long as his team's winning. I don't care. But Marchand has struggled this season, and we all know it. He's got 1 goal in 10 games. I personally don't get having the fourth line split up and scattered across 3 lines on this team. I'm all about players having chemistry and building that to become stronger. These constant changes the Bruins team is seeing, I think, is directly leading to their struggles. Now, putting Coyle on the fourth line makes sense because he needs to get a message sent to him. But putting Jones back in the lineup is absolutely driving me crazy at this point. The fourth line is now Jones, Coyle, and Koepke. Coyle has struggled, and I think more than any player in the top 6 so far this season, and his game against Philly, he was the worst on the ice. Coyle was 20% at the faceoff circle against Philly and has had 1 point in 10 games. To me, this is completely unacceptable for a top 6 forward in the NHL. Jones hasn't looked good in the preseason and didn't look good in the regular season. But Montgomery, I feel it's going to be his hill he's going to die on because he really wants this guy to succeed, so he just keeps putting him in the lineup and hopes he will. Koepke, I feel, is almost being punished with these line mates, but hopefully he can help turn them around and play the right way, as Montgomery alluded to in his press conference. The third line is Frederic, Patra, and Brazeau, who have played decent enough, and I think this is the right spot for Brazeau in the bottom 6. He's been more effective for the Bruins in that role. Sometimes for players, it's about roles, and I feel when a player is successful in that role, you shouldn't mess with it. You see it a lot of times when players leave a team for free agency, and then they just don't succeed because they played well in a role and a system. The bottom 6 sees different matchups than the top 6, and it can create more opportunities for them. Patra had a gaffe last game on that first goal for Philly, but offensively, he's been creating chances for his line mates almost every shift. Patra hasn't been bad offensively, I feel, by any means. But his defensive side is what he needs to work on. But that will come. When he starts playing a complete north-south game, it will be hard for the Bruins to keep him out of the top 6. Frederic has struggled this year, and I originally predicted him to get 20 goals this year, and he's gripping his stick far too tight and not going to those dirty areas. Frederic is a tough guy, but he isn't using that to his advantage, and he needs to go to the net more, and good things will happen. Will these lineup changes work? I'm asking you, because I honestly don't have a clue at this point. Because it happens so often, I almost feel like Montgomery is desperate. I'm not writing off the coach yet, but I do think he's on the hot seat, or at least his seat is feeling pretty warm. If the struggles continue, I can't see how Montgomery isn't fired. I'm working on a video to give you candidates and such, but at this point, I don't even think a coaching change is going to fix the issues with the Boston Bruins team. But if they lose the next 2 games, I think when I see the Bruins play in Toronto, they will have a new head coach. We're 10 games into the season, and the Boston Bruins are last in the division, tied with the Buffalo Sabres, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Detroit Red Wings with 9 points. A win tonight could put them right back into the playoffs, but who would have thought the Bruins would be struggling this badly at the start of the season? This is the start we all thought they would have last year, so maybe it came a year later. Whatever the answer is for the Bruins, they need to show up tonight against Carolina Hurricanes because I truly believe the next 2 games will decide their future. That's a wrap on today's video. To stay up to date on all the news surrounding the Boston Bruins, please subscribe and drop me a like. If news breaks surrounding the Boston Bruins, be sure to check out the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, thank you, and I'll see you next time.